If you're planning to grow cannabis this season, this is your moment. On April 9th at 6 p.m. Eastern, I am hosting a completely free workshop where I'm giving away my full process for growing ceremonial grade cannabis. The exact system I've used to grow medicine that world-class leaders such as Aubrey Marcus, Paul Chek, and Sugar Sean O'Malley have personally told me is unlike anything they've ever experienced. Now, most growers, they fail because they're winging it. No structure, no proven process, just wasted time, costly mistakes, and disappointing harvests. Now, I'm not here for that, and I know you're not either. With outdoor growing season around the corner, this is the perfect chance to set yourself up for the best harvest of your life. Potent, pure, consciousness-shifting plant medicine grown by you. And yes, I'm giving it all away. No paywall, no secrets held back, just the full blueprint. Go to the show notes right now and hit the link to register. And again, this workshop is totally free, but I'm only doing it once. So don't miss this chance to learn how to grow real, sacred medicine the most efficient and effective way possible. Your future plants and your future self will thank you for it. Now back to the show. Greetings, my brothers and sisters. Sending gratitude to all of you who are joining in today to accompany us down the rabbit hole of self-exploration through plant medicines. My name is Ryan Sprague, and I'm here to tell you that your frequency is now set and tuned to explore psychedelic medicines and the impact they've made among the countless psychonauts exploring the last true frontier. Buy a ticket and take the ride with me as we get true first-hand accounts of the experiences, benefits, risks, and transformations taking place within the ever-expanding world of psychedelic medicines on This One Time on Psychedelics. Whenever I have the opportunity to do a podcast with the love of my life, I jump at the opportunity, and this week's episode is no different. Many of you love the episodes her and I do together, and our intention with today's episode is to give you a window into our personal life, what astrological shifts have been taking place over the past 3 months, how these shifts have manifested in our life, what we've learned in the process, and much, much more. So please give me a big hand in welcoming the one, the only Miss Rachel Varitimos back onto the show. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. As always, as I said in the intro, you guys know her, you love her. It's my beautiful partner in crime, Rachel Varitimos, or as I like to say, Rachel Varitimos. We'll get into that in a little while. But guys, I was thinking about what I could record on and who I could record with for this week coming up. And, I had a lot of different podcasts on the calendar, but I was like, you know what? It's about time that Rachel and I do our quarterly podcast. I think that's how often we do them, right? It's like every 3 months we do one.
I feel like it's been a year.
I could be totally lying. But I think in my head, it makes sense that we do it every 3 months.
We talk every single day, so it's hard to decide when we've done a podcast.
We live together. We see each other constantly. It's so funny.
You're the person I talk to.
I know. For everyone tuning in, it's so funny. Like whenever either of us get out of a call that we had a really fun time on, which is every call we do at this point. And we'll get into a lot of like how we got to that point, what we've learned, things like that. By no means are we at the top by any means, but I feel like we've cracked through some barriers recently. And, Rachel, along with being my beautiful partner in crime here, is also my astrologer. It's real what they say. Is it Warren Buffett that says millionaires don't use astrologers, billionaires do? Because that shit's real.
JP Morgan said that.
JP Morgan. In my head, JP Morgan and Warren Buffett are the same guy. But I'm really excited to dive in with you, babe, as always. And, where I'd love to start this off is, I know because I live with you and because we're partners that you've been going through a lot of transformation recently. There's also a lot happening astrologically. And I'd love to start there. I'd love to start with what's been going on. Let's just say the last 3 months, because I know that every client I talk to, my coach I work with, everyone I know has been going through it the last 3 months. And I feel like, at least for us, it feels as though we're coming through the other side now. And for most people I talk to, it seems like that's happening. But I would love if someone way smarter than I, aka you, with regards to astrology, could explain what the hell we've just gone through the last 3 months, because it's been a ringer for sure.
Yeah. It's been a ringer. So the first quarter, third of this year, I would say, actually, honestly, really just through March, there was a lot of just dissolving of the old self in order to connect to the true self and who you really are. A lot of noticing patterns that have kept you in a certain lifestyle way of being, whether it's with your parents, a partner, a friend, your work, like different situations. I'm imagining collectively every single person on this planet has gone through at least one area of their life where they've noticed a pattern that they just can't do anymore. That's what the first third of this year was. It was trying to weed out all of these patterns that are not who you really are, all of these patterns that you've learned to do in order to survive, but they're not helping you thrive. And really, what's going to help people thrive the next 20 years is being in their radical authenticity. It's connecting to their emotions. It's learning to decode your emotions and actually use your emotions and alchemize your emotions and create a home within yourself. So in order to create a home within ourselves, first we had to do a lot of spring cleaning or like winter cleaning, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why the first third of this year has been clearing out and a lot of karmic endings for a lot of people. But one of the biggest shifts I see that's happening is we're really being asked to shed our old day-to-day and shed perfectionism, shed over editing ourselves, shed over analyzing, and move one foot at a time into the unknown. So even when Pierre was just going crazy on your chair and you said Shlomo will probably edit that out, I almost think the future of podcasting and video and like live talks like this is going to be unedited, because authenticity is on the rise and editing yourself and having to seem perfect is on the fall. It's almost like like we're reinventing what it means to find success. And if you thought success in the past meant having to do things a certain way or look a certain way or be polished a certain way or appear perfect, or you go to a plant medicine ceremony and you have to sit this and this and this and this and this. It's like all these rules that we've made. We're coming into an era of realizing we made all those rules. They're all made up. Do we really want to keep living by all of these crazy rules? If anything, they've just taken us away from ourselves, which is why the first quarter of this year was so challenging, because it was a breakdown to connect you back to yourself. And it's going to continue to happen over the course of this year. I'll say for myself, now that we're almost through this shedding and finding who we are, I have found myself like just recording podcasts and not having them edited at all and just putting them out, and them being my best podcasts I've done, them being the ones that people reach out to me the most about. And so I've almost seen the evidence in my real life too of how much people are valuing unedited things right now.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Kind of what I've seen in the content game too. I think, at least for me as a content viewer along with creator, I started to get really sick of all this like super edited, perfect B-roll. Like it just doesn't really feel real to me. It feels as though now there's a returning to kind of like off the cuff raw content, which is amazing for me because I love making content. I do not love editing it and all that tedious, type stuff that we have to do with content or that we've thought we've had to do with content. Because for a while, I think people, when it was new, they really loved it. And then people started realizing, like, wait a minute, can't a lot of these things be marketing tricks? That guy posing in front of the Lamborghini, like, what if that Lamborghini actually isn't his? What if it's just one he's rented? What if the guys on the private jet are just sitting at the tarmac, not actually flying in the private jet? What if they just rented it to go take pictures? Like all those things that people can't really tell anymore. I know for me, I love raw and authentic. I've never once listened to a podcast and heard someone say something weird or something otherwise, should be, and I'm doing that in quotations for you listeners, should be edited out. I've never once been like, oh, I'll never listen to that podcast again because they did that. And honestly, the people that do feel that way, I'm like, hey, my podcast isn't the one for you, and my content's not the stuff for you, because at the end of the day, I like to do my stuff off the cuff. I like to be authentic. And so that's what I've been feeling too. And from my angle, the last 3 months have been exactly what you have said they have been. It's a cutting away of the unnecessary. But the challenge was that I had belief systems, stories, etc., that told me all that stuff was necessary. But as it started to fall away and as almost God tried to pull it from me, it was almost like I was trying to argue for my limitations, my smallness, those things, and I can have compassion for myself and now realizing like, oh man, you were doing the best with the information you had. But I'm very grateful that I date you for many reasons, obviously, but very, very grateful that you're my partner to do this life with, because a lot of the time, guys, I'll tell you how this goes. I go through a weird mental state or a challenge or something like that, and I go over to Rachel and I'm like, what planet do I blame right now? And so she'll give me like the Mercury's retrograde or whatever, but then she'll explain it in a way that makes it really feel like it's happening for me. And then I leave feeling very confident after that. And like, okay. And I can tell you, I mean, you've watched this, I'm not telling you, but I can tell everyone listening that yes, December and January specifically were very challenging for me. But over the last 2 years, I had made a point to pick up playing guitar again, because I had always stayed just good enough, like, you know, kept my stuff polished enough, but I never really moved forward. I would like pick it up, be on for a month and off for a month, things like that. And when I was a teenager, it was like all I did. We used to play like, 4 to 6 hours a day every day. And recently, during this time where I didn't have all these things that I thought I had to do, sales weren't coming in or whatever was happening, I was like, well, what do I do with my hands? And so I just decided, I was like, all right, let me do a deeper level into guitar. Instead of just making the goal of picking it up every day, which I had for the last 2 years, and it worked really well. I'm like, what would happen if I started waking up earlier, crushing an hour in the morning, an hour at night, joining a new guitar academy? Like, what if I really put my all into this, the same way I do with business or my health or exercise or whatever? And just this morning, I was in here ripping my guitar, doing things that I could only dream of doing back when I thought I was my best. And it was one of those moments where I was like, holy shit, Ryan, like you're really applying the same things that you've done into this. But I didn't have, quote unquote, the time to do that when I was doing all these extraneous things that I thought I, quote unquote, had to do. So this time has been very powerful to, just like you said, like pull me away from what I thought was me to pull me back into what is actually me. So really, really accurate.
Yeah. Well, what's really interesting is if we think of like, when I think of astrology and I think of life and what is life in astrology, well, life is the sun in astrology. And the zodiac sign that's associated with the sun, because the sun represents all of these things too, is Leo. So the sun is Leo energy. And your sun, everyone's sun sign, is where they're here to find success. It is where they're here to find abundance. It's here where they're meant to find the most joy and fulfillment and their soul's purpose and all those different things. Well, in like the highest expression of Leo, when Leo works optimally, it finds success because it's in joy. It doesn't find success because it's fucking sad. It doesn't find success because it's not having fun. The opposite sign of Leo is Aquarius, and it's ruled by Saturn. And Saturn is cold and it has rules. And Saturn inherently causes blocks because it's disconnected from the sun. It's the opposite of the sun. The sun produces success, it magnetizes, it produces abundance. Yet we have been trained for so long to be like Saturn, to have discipline, to be responsible. And people wonder why everyone in the world is miserable. We've been lied to. We've been told that, oh, you can't make your passions your job. You can't do things that really feel pleasurable for you every day. You can't. And here's the reason why. It's because we've been living this Saturnian, cold, disconnected from our heart life for so long that we don't even know what true pleasure and joy is. And so we go for things like chocolate cake that was made at Shaw's and has all these horrible ingredients in it for that like one bit of pleasure that we get, that one momentary pleasure. Or we go and we like, I don't know, we do some sort of guilty pleasure that's not true joy, just to get that quick fix of joy because we don't believe we have time for real joy. No one wants to give themselves time for real joy. And that was a big part of the beginning of this year. It forcibly slowed people down to be like, you can't just keep going full steam ahead. You're only connecting to false senses of joy, you know? And here's the thing is that when you slow down, when you connect with yourself, you're going to have to feel through a bunch of stuff you probably didn't want to feel through. But just like working out, if you go to the gym, you're going to have to like probably get yourself up and get yourself working out. But after you get that workout, I'm willing to bet you feel really fucking good. You have true joy. You have true happiness. And then what ends up happening is the more you stay on that workout schedule for the sake of attaining joy and happiness, not for having a good body, not for having a good body. That's not how the sun finds success. That's not how Leo finds success. Leo finds success by being in the moment and in the process and in doing things for joy right here, right now, that are going to create more and more joy going forward. So like real joy would come from moving your body or something like that. Like I go on walks multiple times a day, not to lose weight, but because I know they feel good. And so part of connecting back to ourselves right now is connecting to what feels good on a much deeper level. Not just eating the chocolate cake, not just having a quick influx of cash and then being able to buy this new bag you wanted. Not like these are all the superficial ways we've kept ourselves from true joy because we're disconnected from ourselves and we're living high speed ahead and goal oriented when that wasn't the point.
Yeah.
And so I see us moving into this new earth is coming about where we're going to recognize that your life force energy, the things that bring you joy, the things that make you feel good inside are way more valuable and are going to give so much more value to you in your life than you doing this logical thing you've always been told is going to bring you that. I'm willing to bet it hasn't brought you what you want yet. The thing is, if people are too afraid right now to completely go over to the joy side because it's new. And so it's going to be one step at a time. That's the North Node in Pisces. We're collectively walking into the unknown. It's going to be, okay, test it. Like that's what the first third of this year was. Slow down. Do you have to deal with that? Do you have to deal with that person? Like what happens when you let it go,
100%. I totally agree, babe. And I'm so glad that you shared all that because I am willing to bet for everyone listening right now, you've known this deep down your whole life. You've known that it's bullshit. Maybe go back to, depending on how much of a rebel you are, you could either go back to who you are right now in this moment, or you could go back to who you were as a teenager where, I think for myself, right? Like, when I was 16, I started hearing about, oh my goodness, we're going to have to get jobs soon and all of these things. And our mutual friend, George, worked at Staples. And George is like the perfect archetype for Staples, but he was like, he was like, yeah, you should come get a job here. And I was like, oh, darn, I guess I'm going to have to. And I remember how absolutely soul crushing that job was. Like, I was just talking about this on, I think the Monday meeting I had today with Shelly. I was talking about like, I don't think you can find anything more boring than selling pens and paper. Like, I think that's honestly the bottom. Like, you know what I mean? And I started there and I just,
now you're here.
Yeah, I guess, it pans out that way. But like that, I'm very grateful for that experience because that showed me like, I watched George and other people who worked there just be like, hey man, it's just a job, just get in, get out. And I was like, no, like my whole life, I've been the person who's like, you tell me to do it that way and that's boring as hell. I'm going to do it this way and you're not going to be the wiser. Like teachers that would be like, don't wait till the last night to do your book report. I'm like, well, you're not me. So I'm going to do it my own way. So that's who I had been my whole life. And this whole process of what I'm getting to here, it would take 10 years to go through the whole thing, but is really just trusting myself. Because when I was a kid and I would hear things like, don't wait until the last night, there would be something in me that would feel like, oh God, I probably shouldn't wait till the last night. But there'd be something deeper and wiser that'd be like, it's fine, dude. And I wouldn't know why that was. I didn't know if I should trust it. But then as I get this job at Staples, it's again like, no, this is not for you. But I looked around at everyone else and everyone else just seems to be going along with the picture. And I'm like, what's wrong with me? Something's wrong with me. I must have bad work ethic. Oh, I'm lazy. That's what it is. Meanwhile, I'm playing 6 hours of guitar a day. I'm getting A's, straight A's in school, right? Like so silly. So it's taken me this long. And even the past 3 months have been a whole new avenue of it to really just allow myself to love my life and not be doing things that I'm creating for myself that I'm telling myself I have to do. I mean, you used to watch me on so many sales calls all day, working 12 to 14 hour days, because that's what I just had to do. I had learned from other people that I have to be the one doing sales calls, even though I fucking hated them. I always hated doing sales calls. It was annoying to me because half the time the people that would show up were just, oh, I just wanted to talk to you. I saw you on a podcast. I'm like, cool, but not exactly what I'm doing these calls for. And as soon as I just started being like, no. I mean, meeting Ani, who you guys, the listeners, heard about 2 months ago on the podcast, was a big part of this because deep down, like I said, we all know this whole theory of like, oh, we just have to do what's the safe bet is completely fucking bullshit. But the problem is that most of the people around us are just like, you got to do what's safe. You got to do what's safe. So it's almost like as we're starting to break free of it, there's someone else trying to keep us in the matrix because they don't want to admit they could because then they're going to have to change their whole life and it's going to be work to do and it's scary, right? So, as these things happen and as I met Ani, I remember the first question he asked me, and for those listening, Ani and I work together. He's my business coach right now. And, he said, what do you want your life to look like? And it was in that moment that I realized I hadn't asked myself that question in a long time. And this was last April, like not the one that just passed, or was it the one that just, the one that just passed like last year. And I told him, I was like, I don't ever want to fucking do a sales call again. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And he's like, great, let's get that set up. And for the first time in a while, I was around someone who was like, there is no fucking rules, dude. Like literally everyone's making this shit up as they go. And these are things that I've learned through Hermetics and whatever. But again, life is just a series of remembering these things or everything and then forgetting it, remembering and forgetting it. And that's why the 5 people you spend the most time with are so influential because for you, when I forget, you remind me. When you forget, I remind you. And if you can get together with people like that and create a group like that, you're going to remember more and forget less. So I totally agree.
Yeah. And one other thing that I want to add in addition to what you're saying is collectively we're moving towards Pisces energy, a new way of living life, a new way of looking at life. And when I just heard you describe, there was some phrase you said about like, oh, well, everyone's got the 9-to-5 job. You have to have the 9, you just got to get it. You just got to live that life and whatever. We're learning that we've been playing chess outside of ourselves and trying to control everything outside of ourselves. Like, okay, get the job. Okay, do this, do this, do this. Like, okay, well, let's try it. What if I keep dating this person and do that person? It's like we keep moving the pieces around outside of us. And what I think a lot of people are going to learn over the next few years with where we're heading collectively is how much power they've always had and how much power every human has always had, but didn't understand and didn't know how to access. And it is that of the Pisces power. So when the North Node's in Pisces, Pisces is a mirror. Pisces is karma. That's what Pisces, the sign, represents. Whenever the North Node's in a sign, we're collectively moving towards that sign. A few years ago, the North Node was in Taurus. That's when everyone was obsessed with getting their feet in the earth and the sun and going back to nature. Those are all the things Taurus are about. That's when the North Node is in Taurus. So we can see these themes. When the North Node moves into a sign, we collectively become obsessed with those themes. Right now, as the North Node moves into Pisces, we're moving into more of a spiritual way of living, a less practical way of living. And what Pisces teaches you is that what's going on inside you, no matter what you do, if you feel a certain way and you keep taking action from that certain way, you will keep creating that in your life. So if you keep thinking, oh my God, money is scarce, I just got another bill, I need to go figure out and make new money, and then you take all action from that scarcity feeling and you go scattered all over the place, or these are the rules, I have to keep doing my same things every day or I'll die. Like,
I feel attacked.
Yeah. When you come from that place, you just keep creating it. And that's why people get stuck in these karmic, that's what Pisces is about, loops. Pisces causes confusion for people. It's because you keep doing the same shit from the same feeling. It's not logical. And so what we're coming to find out is that when you find peace within yourself in the face of feeling that stress, and you don't act from that stress, but you figure out a way to come back into peace in your being, and you come back into trust that the next move is going to be shown to you, and it doesn't have to be logical. It just has to be that next feeling of where you want to move towards. I'll give a story to explain in a second, but we're realizing that when you act from peace in the feeling you want, you then create more of that. I know we've all heard about this in manifesting. You're probably like, Rachel, this is manifesting 101, but do you really live your life slowing down enough to see how you're feeling every moment of every day? How you're feeling before you have a conversation with someone? How you're feeling when you get that bill and then start taking all of these scattered actions? Are you really slowing down enough to like honor that feeling? Or are you just moving through life and, oh, okay, now I've got to figure out a way to make the money back? Because what you'll find is if you slow that, and that's why the first third of this year was slowing people down so they would start to connect to that. For me, I have a new one-on-one client and I'm teaching her astrology. She's the only client I'm teaching astrology, and I've never taught someone astrology one-on-one, so I don't really have a plan. An old version of me would sit down and be like, okay, think really hard, come up with a plan. And I probably would come up with a plan. It'd probably be a good plan, but maybe a little boring plan. And it would get the point across, but maybe not my best work because I'd be overthinking it and perfecting it and blah, blah, blah. And I'd feel like there's always more to perfect, right? But instead of doing that, because I know astrologically where we are, I decided to take baths a bunch of baths. You know, I've been taking baths like crazy.
Oh, yeah. You have.
And I was like, I have my session with her today. I'm just going to trust that what wants to come through is what will come through. And I'm going to stay as relaxed and in flow and just feeling good as possible. So I'm in the bath for like 40 minutes, and all of a sudden I start singing Karma by Taylor Swift in my head. And then as I'm singing it, I'm like, oh my God, this is Pisces. That's hilarious. It's like the sign Pisces, this song. And then I think, oh my God, my client who I'm teaching astrology is a Pisces rising. Maybe I can show her this song and then she'll really connect to the archetype. She won't just understand it logically, but she'll be able to feel it, and we'll point out lyrics and it will take it a step further. She'll get into the archetype. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, then there's this song that goes with her birth chart. And then I thought of several placements she had. And all of a sudden in 20 minutes, I had a whole playlist for her based on her birth chart and different songs that would describe different parts of them. We went through that whole session and I played each song. She texted me the next day and said, Rachel, I understand astrology so deeply now. Like whatever you did just unlocked something in me. And now I get it. And I understand the relationships between the signs and everything. If I sat down and tried to perfect and, oh, God, make the perfect plan like I used to do, it would not have been as magical. I know for a fact.
100%.
There was no worry in my body when I went to go teach that because it felt magical when it came through me. Afterwards, I felt magical. When she texted me the next day, I was like, and that's what I mean. What you feel and what you create from creates more of that.
What is up, family? I wanted to take a second while you're tuning in to tell you about an amazing new product I recently began using. Now, you guys know I do ads very rarely, and my promise to you is that anything I speak about is something I personally have found value in using regularly. Well, recently, I came across a company called Brain Supreme, who sells microdoses of mushrooms mixed with adaptogens, nootropics, and other additions as well. And even though I've microdosed off and on for years, I have never felt results like these. In only 2 weeks, I'm sleeping better, I have far less mind chatter, my ability to perform has exponentially improved, and best of all, the sense of inner peace I've been feeling is like nothing I've ever experienced in microdosing before. Right now, you can get 15% off of any of their products when you use code SPRAGUE15 at checkout. And to find out more about them and grab some for yourself, head down to the show notes for this episode and begin your journey into microdosing today. Now back to the show. It's amazing because I can totally corroborate this. As I started to slow down, I mean, it was, kind of non-consensual at the time, but I'm glad that it got forced on me because it was extremely good for me. Because really, since last April, I've been on the path of slowing down, and it's come in phases where I almost realized that the way I was running my business was kind of shell-shocked a little bit, right? I was just like trying to do so much stuff, just thinking that more effort would create more beauty. And effort by definition is not sustainable because it requires energy. So what happens on the days that you just don't naturally have the energy to put in effort? Well, you're going to have to find another way to put that effort in through stimulants or whatever it is, and that's not going to be sustainable. So in December, it was actually the winter that I've enjoyed the most. And you and I have talked about this, and part of it is hilarious because it's like, yeah, Ryan, because you actually fucking let yourself have a winter for once, You just enjoyed the fact that you were inside. You enjoyed the fact that there was snow on the ground. You enjoyed the fact that it was cold outside. I found a way to enjoy it, and that only happened from slowing down. And in slowing down, it went from, I got to do this, this, and this to like, how do I feel right now? And what actually feels fun for me right now? And, you guys that are listeners, tuning in may think I'm being silly when I say follow the fun because I say it all the time. but it's 100% accurate. Like, I'm not saying anything that is metaphor or silly or anything like that. Like, no, what I really mean is, like, seriously, follow your fun. And it's like that famous quote from Terence McKenna. I'll bring it up real quick and read it because it's really good. I'll show you actually. So it reads, nature loves courage. You make the commitment and nature will respond to that commitment by removing impossible obstacles. Dream the impossible dream and the world will not grind you under, it will lift you up. This is the trick. This is what all these teachers and philosophers who really counted, who really touched the alchemical gold, this is what they understood. This is the shamanic dance in the waterfall. This is how magic is done. By hurling yourself into the abyss, aka the unknown, and discovering it's a featherbed. One of my favorite quotes of all time, because really, what are we talking about here? Do we dare dream that life can be as awesome as we already know it can be inside? Do we dare just own that? That's really what that quote means to me. You know, when I was a kid, and, you know, we have this on our fridge. Remember Friday night as a kid? You know, when I was a kid and Friday night came, I was so excited to play with one toy, and I didn't know how long I would play with it. It just went seamlessly from one to the other, and I just followed the fun. And I literally remember, Rachel, I don't know if I've ever told you this. I think I have because we've been together long enough. I've probably told you everything, but I remember the day that shifted for me. I remember waking up in my bedroom. I had 2 toy boxes in my room. I was probably around 6.5, 7, around there. And I remember waking up, and I remember feeling and thinking like, whoa, something's different, because I feel like I went more logical based. Like, it was like I remember waking up and seeing a new toy that my parents had bought. And I remember like wanting to go to this old toy, but then just stopping for a second and be like, oh, I should probably play with that one because it's newer. And I remember in that moment as a 6-year-old just being like, something's different. But obviously as a 6-year-old, I don't know, how to explain that. But I remember exactly where I was. I was staring at the window that the air conditioner used to be in my room. There used to be a toy box right underneath where the air conditioner was in that window. I remember staring right there, looking at it and having that thought and being like, whoa, that was weird. And then I would think about that for the next couple of years. And then it just kind of like got lost until I did psychedelics and that memory resurfaced. Because before that, it was just flow state. But if that was how it was then, why can't it be how it is now? And I think for a long time, I just went with like, well, that's just the way life goes. Well, that's just the way it is, right? What everyone else says. But deep down, I know we don't fucking believe that. Like, I know we're not fucking here to pay taxes and goddamn die. Like, that's not why we're here. And the only way that we're ever going to enact why we're really here is if we have the courage and bravery to go for what's really fun for us. And just like Terrence said, by hurling yourself into the abyss and realizing it's a featherbed. Because you know what the real abyss is? What we already have been living in. What I was already living in when I was working at Staples and all that, telling myself I had to do this or I couldn't do that. That's the real abyss. The abyss is not taking a chance on what you really love. And even if it doesn't work out the way you want it to, having fucking fun doing it. How many games of paintball or, times I play guitar that I didn't get a lick exactly right, but I'm still having a blast doing it. But what if I just told myself, well, I'm not going to get that lick right, so I'm not even going to try, or I'm not going to win that paintball match, so why even try? It's like, that's bullshit. Even if the other team is way better than me, I still want to go out there and have fun because it's not really about winning. The real winning is by doing it, by doing what you feel is really fun and why you're on this planet, why you've incarnated into this body, have this soul, and are on this earth at this very particular time in history. I mean, I've heard someone break it down before, but like, the intricacies that had to happen for us to be here right now are insane. I mean, the fact that, like, think about at least like 2-3 generations back. I mean, your family comes from the Holocaust, right? Like, think about how many things could have just one decision could have meant you were never here, or one decision could have meant I was never here. And then in all of our lives, how if I had never worked in that dispensary, I would have never met you, or at least never met you in the way I did. Who knows? Maybe I would have met you somewhere else. But like, how many things are like that? And then at the same time, at least for me, and I'll make it personal for me, I try to actually be logical about life, as if life is logical in any way, shape, or form. It's not. The signs are all around us. And so really what Rachel's saying for everyone tuning in, as someone who's learned this from her, is life is meant to be the most fun you possibly can have. And if you choose to believe that, and you choose to have a non-negotiable in your life, that you are working towards the most fun life you can ever possibly have, just be ready for how life shows you just how much better it can get. You know, hopefully Rachel and I can be examples for you guys that we're not any more special than anyone. We weren't born with silver spoons in our mouth or anything. You know, we pulled ourselves up from our bootstraps, and we've had to go through all this ourselves, right? Of the ways in which we boxed ourselves in, the ways in which we told ourselves that's just the way things are. That's just how you have to do things. And I still catch myself in these things. But what's great about having someone like Rachel in my life is that she'll call me on that shit immediately. She does not allow me for a fucking second to play small. And likewise. And that is, I really feel, the highest expression we can have for each other, whether you're a romantic partner with someone or a friend, right? Like calling each other forward, calling each other like, what's the biggest dream you can possibly dream? Let me help you dream it. And then vice versa. I mean, that's, I think, why we were so excited and happy as kids, because we didn't have anyone telling us you can't dream that big. Because even very logical, linear adults understand that when you're 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6, you're going to have a wild imagination, and they just kind of don't pay attention to it, which allows us to be who we're meant to be. And then as we get adulterated, boxed in, you can't say that. No, don't do that. No, you have to do what's safe. All of a sudden, we start losing that. But it's still in there, and we all have the memory. And that's why I think a lot of us, you know, for me, for instance, I grew up being a rebel. It didn't come from wanting to listen to a different type of music or whatever. It came from this deep down thing of, I don't want to do things the way I'm being told they have to be done, because I know that's bullshit. But it took me this long to be around enough other people and to own it in myself, where now I'm never going back.
Totally. And I think everything you just said is so important, because if people want to know astrologically where we're heading, into a whole bunch of newness, into a forest that has not been macheted yet, a jungle that hasn't been macheted yet. Pull out your machete.
We're going hunting.
Because actually at the end of this week, Sunday, March 30th, Neptune, it's a generational planet, so it rules a generation. Me and you were in the Capricorn Neptune generation, so our generation is dreaming about building a future. Neptune, when it moves into Aries, that means generationally a new beginning. Aries is the start of the zodiacal wheel. And Neptune is the planet of our biggest dreams and ideals and what can we dream up, and spirituality and limitless possibilities. So if this planet that is how big we can dream and limitless possibilities moves into this sign of newness and bravely paving your own path and having courage to trust yourself and to lead the way, everything Ryan just said, that's the time. We're moving into a time when let the logic leave and notice where you want to be pulled. Notice, even if it makes no logical sense, it's probably the way. It makes me think of like, I don't even know if I should tell this story. Maybe I will. I don't know. I guess I'm going to tell it because I just mentioned it.
Tell it.
A year ago, I remember I really wanted to take a psychic school, and I didn't really have any money to take this psychic school at the time, but I was obsessing over it. So pay attention to the things you obsess over. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I was like, I want to take this school. I don't even know this lady really. I don't even know why I want to take it. I don't have money. And then I remember on my birthday, I had just enough money to get this course, but it wasn't the responsible thing to do. But I just knew I had to trust that obsessive feeling in my body that I couldn't stop thinking about this course. I wanted it. And I took it. Now, was it the course? Like, you would think, oh, that course is probably going to change your life. It actually was not the course that changed my life. But thank fucking God I took that course, because that did change my life. It was who I met in the course that changed my life.
And who you became in taking that course as well, which had little to do with like the content, but more of like what you learned in there. Like in terms of like, not even like the learning, like the teachings, but like, how do I want to say this? Because I witnessed you go through the program, and what I could see is like, it's the transformation that happened in and of itself. Like, it's almost like how when we would go down to the lake house of Mark England, we didn't necessarily do anything there, but we transform being around other people, being in different environments. And also, it allows you to see yourself a little bit differently when you're in a program. And you get where I'm going with this? Like, it's a qualitative thing. It's hard to explain.
That's what it was, is the woman who was running it is really big, a really big name. And the way she ran it was so type B compared to me. And number one, it gave me permission to be type B, and I am so much more type B now. And that was so valuable because I'm the most, like, I never allowed myself to be the way I allow myself to be now, and have integrated now because I saw how she ran it. Number two, she let me on her podcast, and I got some of the best clients I have ever, like clients that I didn't even know existed. People who are literally carbon copies of me that I get to talk to every single day from being on that podcast that she invited me on, from me taking that course. That podcast in itself and the clients that I attracted from that podcast are the most valuable things that have ever come into my life, because those clients, it was like almost like I was attracting clients before who were not really in alignment with me. And so I thought I was bad at what I did. But the moment I attracted people who were in alignment with me, I realized, holy shit, you're way better than you thought at what you did. Like the evidence that those people gave, I'm still working with them. I've loved them. I want them to never leave me. I love them. I'm obsessed. That's what I mean, though, is it's not a logical path. That program blew up my life because of the people I met, the lessons I learned from observing it, but it wasn't the linear program itself. So that's the point I'm trying to make. Follow those obsessions you have. It's not going to likely lead in an exact straight line. We don't live in a line world. For some reason, people think that's how the world works, but it doesn't. It works like this and this and this. Why do we think logic will work for that?
More Boston than New York, right? New York's got the grid. Boston obviously was built by drunk people in the 1700s. Nowhere, like every road is just like topsy-turvy.
So it's a time to trust yourself more than ever, because when Pluto is the power that gives, it's the planet that gives power to people. It is in Aquarius. So where people are going to gain power over the next 20 years is in rebelling against the norm. Rebelling against what everyone else is doing in order to do what feels authentically right to you. Yeah. Even if it makes no logical sense, even if it's like the last money you have and you got to pay your rent this month, like I did when I bought that course. All my bills ended up getting paid. That was another thing that course taught me, because I ended up making a lot more money after being in that course, not because of what I learned in the course, because of all the things I just talked about, but it's never like the money it's never about like, oh, this is an irresponsible thing. Like even the money's not real. Like literally, you know what I'm saying? If I didn't spend it because of the money, I wouldn't have never have made more money. And I didn't know that was going to make me more money.
Yeah. I mean, almost every decision that has included money has led to that in my life. Like when I first joined and lifted with Mark, I had literally $2,500 left to my name at that point. There was a little bit of rumors starting around the pandemic bullshit, which we didn't really know what it was around that time. I wanted to leave the dispensary, but I didn't know where I was going to work. So like logically, it was the most irresponsible decision I could have ever made. Not logically, it is literally the one decision that changed my entire life. And I can tell when I meet people, especially when I used to do sales calls, who's at the point that we're at now and who's at the old point. Like I remember when I used to like think pinching pennies and, oh my God, I can't do that, et cetera, et cetera. Like now, and you've seen me do this. I wanted to get into crypto. Cool. Just took out a bunch of credit cards, offboarded the money, got into crypto. I trust I'll discharge them. Like there gets to be a point where you're just like, fuck it. What's the best thing that could happen? I'm sick of looking at these things as like, oh God, what's the worst thing that can happen? Listen, at the end of the day, I've met enough millionaires and billionaires now that have been in debt so many times, have been out on the street, so they thought, a bunch of times. But as long as they were willing to follow their heart, they always ended up where they were meant to be. And what I can guarantee you about what I do and what you do is that we make decisions from our heart. Even when other people think they may not be the most responsible decision, or even when we've thought they're not the most responsible decision, they've come from our heart. And I really credit that for where we are today. Not that we have Bugattis and fucking millions of dollars, because that stuff honestly doesn't matter to me. But because literally my entire day, I have fucking fun. Like literally, even this winter. And for everyone listening, maybe you guys don't know this about me, but I am a tank top and shorts guy, or just shorts guy. I mean, I think it was it Aaron the other day that was like, yeah, man, anytime I see you with your shirt on, I take it as a special opportunity, because like that's who I am. That's what I want. That's why dress codes and all this bullshit never fucking made sense to me. It's like, why wouldn't we want sun on their skin, etc. So, again, like from this winter, I had so much fun going out in the morning, starting what we would now call Pierre's fire, because he is adorable and he would sit in front of the fire and just look at it. And so all day I'd be going out there and throwing another log in it. We got this wood burning stove at the house. It's amazing. Then you'd come out from a call. We'd connect a little while, hug, kiss. You'd go back in and do your thing. I'd maybe run to the store, get home, play guitar, watch a movie, like a silly rom-com, and be so excited. Like all the day was the same excitement level. And I got to be honest, guys, like as someone who's followed my fun my whole life, I've never experienced this before. And it's shown me where, even though I knew this was real underneath, it was a bunch of nonsense covering it up. And it's fucking hilarious how much I did this all to myself. Like, it's only me here. All these ways in which I told myself I couldn't, I wouldn't, I shouldn't. And as soon as I just let that shit go, because I had no other option, all of a sudden, everything that I had wanted came to me, because the pathway there was through. I was talking to a client the other day about, he has a challenge because when he was a child, he had a mother who, to her credit, she was doing the best she could, but she was a little wild. And if he was, kind of visible, she would ask him to do things he didn't want to do. So he internalized, I just got to be as small as possible. And I just got to like be as quiet as possible. And if I do that, I can just kind of hang out and do what I want to do. And so now this gentleman's an adult and he's starting to have challenges because he's like, all right, well, I need to work on all this stuff before I go out there and do something, right? Like a podcast. And I was telling him, I said, what if the pathway out of this was right through it? What if instead of having to do all this stuff to fix yourself, quote unquote, before you start your thing, what if the pathway to quote unquote fixing yourself, which is not real, but we'll use it as a placeholder, what if the pathway to fixing yourself is going out on a podcast and talking about all the challenges you've gone through, the suicidal ideation, all these different types of things? Do you think someone else out there that's also struggling, thinking that, oh, I wish I could do what someone like Ryan or Rachel does, but I have anxiety, I have suicidal ideation. You don't think someone like that may not listen to your episode and be like, holy shit, I can do this right now? You don't think that maybe what you're going through right now could provide a permission slip for others? And that's the pathway, right? Like, it's the things that we think we have to quote unquote fix or heal. That's the big term these days. It's such a thirst trap. You heal through expressing with others, being seen, and by loving yourself enough to accept that you're healed enough right now in this moment to go do what's fun for you. And what I see in the healing space, and you and I talk a lot about this, is kids, essentially, right? Adults, kids, whatever, are creating this challenge where they're like, oh, I want to go have fun, but I need to do healing first. I'm like, you know what that sounds like? That sounds a lot like I need to do my homework. All right. When you were a kid, did you want to do homework or did you want to go outside and ride your bike? Be honest. I think most kids will answer, I want to ride my bike. Maybe some kids found actual enjoyment in homework, but I think most of us wanted to ride our bike. So at the end of the day, if we can just allow ourselves to literally just be vulnerable and be authentically ourselves, everything works out. It makes no logical sense, but I promise it makes sense.
Yeah, when you're always healing, you're never being, and you will never become who you want to become if you're healing, because true healing is becoming. It's not healing. It's becoming. Exactly. Every single moment of every single day. I talked about this a lot more when the North Node was in Aries. We were moving towards our identity and our self-concept. And I do think that it still applies now, but we're in much more spiritual times. So it's a little less mental. But one of the things that transformed my life the most was self-concept work, and every moment saying, no, I am this person. So like before, I didn't think I was good at coaching. I'm a person now that people re-sign with again and again and again. It was the only thought I allowed myself to think for a long time, for many days. I'm talking only thought I said to myself all day when I wasn't doing anything else for months. Mm-hmm. And it really only took 7 days before I started realizing I was that person. But it starts with the moment by moment becoming seeing yourself right now as that person. That's like saying, oh, I'll go. That's like me if I said, oh, I'll invest in that course when I have more money. That money would have never came. That course led me to making more money in a way I would have never thought logically to make more money. You know, I could have said, oh, I'll teach people how to learn astrology when I've come up with a whole outline that I sat down and thought out. Well, this woman came to me. I knew I could teach her. I didn't try. And then it downloaded the best lesson plan I could. It's never, ever it's literally the biggest cockblock of your life to think that once I've done this, then I can do this.
If this, then that is silly as hell. And again, we say that as people that have gone through it. We field tested it, guys. Not a good strategy. And at the same time, like, to go back on the healing thing real quick too, it's like I could have gone to therapy. I could have seen coaches, etc. Before I did my first podcast episode, I was nervous. I could have easily been convinced that I needed healing around my throat chakra. And I could have spent thousands of dollars in therapy and with coaches talking about this wound. Or I could just go fucking do the podcast episode. And when those fears pop up, remind myself, you are safe. Those who mind don't matter. Those who matter don't mind. And isn't that really the healing process? Because really, if you think about all healing, or I won't say all healing, because again, binary language is interesting. But I'll say a lot of my personal healing, to make it personal, has not been actual, like it's only healed through exposure therapy. And I think that's what a lot of people miss is they're like, oh, when I have the money, I'll go do it. Instead of like, no, I'll go do what I want to do and I'll figure it out because I'm good at making things work. One way that you could say it is a hustler, but that mentality has a different meaning to it that often gets mistranscribed. I think that the more that I've been able to just take action and be okay with getting it quote unquote wrong and okay with failing, which doesn't exist. That's how I've gotten here. That's how I got on Aubrey Marcus's podcast. Did I think I was ready when Aubrey hit me up? No, but I just chose to believe, well, if he's hitting me up now, I must be ready. So also, what does that mean about myself and how I see myself? And then I went and did that and realized, oh yeah, I was ready. But I could have pushed it off and said I needed to heal more, or I still had anxiety I needed to heal. All that stuff was still there. But you know what's helped my anxiety more than anything? Showing it over and over that it's bullshit because I do the things anyway and it doesn't faze me. That's what builds confidence, and that's what builds trust and faith in yourself over time.
Yeah. And I will add to that, it's creating a home within yourself as you do it. So talk about healing anxiety. This is something I've recently healed and it's been the biggest breakthrough of my life. And I'm so excited. So I've had social anxiety in my whole life, really bad social anxiety. Ryan knows, where I can't breathe around people. And then I feel like I have to keep like talking to make them feel safe. And then I over talk and I probably just talk way too much. And I don't feel good and I feel like I can't be myself. And so the last month I decided, I was like, Rachel, what if you talk and say what you want to say? And then when you get that anxious feeling that makes you want to talk more, you just shut up and you stare at them and you make it awkward and you don't say shit. and you allow awkward silences and you see what happens. So what ended up happening was for a full couple of weeks, I had client calls, birth chart readings. I did just that. There were some calls where we were just staring at each other for several minutes and I would not talk. And what ended up happening is I would create so much peace within myself because I was just practicing on focusing on my body and creating the space and not talking until something else come. Well, in that calm space, something really profound would either come through after a few minutes that I would then say, and we'd have a much more impactful session. Or they actually ended up carrying the conversation, the other person. And that was a huge breakthrough for me because clearly I had a limiting belief that I had to carry the conversation. I had to make them feel comfortable. And so I learned two things over those 2 weeks. Rachel, you didn't have to keep talking. Holy shit, this whole time, you didn't have to keep talking. You could shut up, create a lot of peace within yourself, and then the next thing will come to you. Or you could just stare at them and it's fine. And then you guys are in the present moment with each other. Or or one of the two things end up happening. Either I come up with the next thing to say, or they fill the space and they held the container. After 2 weeks of doing that, my social anxiety went away on my client calls. They became so much more impactful. I went to the dog park, and this guy me and Ryan used to work with who I hadn't seen in 6 years, saw me, said hi, asked how I was doing. I said, hi, I'm good. And I didn't ask how he was because I didn't want to. And old me would, because I would feel bad. And I'd feel like I have to be a small talker. I didn't want to be a small talker. I just walked away. That was the most peace I'd ever had with small talk, saying hi, walk away. I literally, and today, I went to the doctor and I felt the most peace I'd ever felt at the doctor's office. I felt so confident. I felt like I was talking to everyone differently. Like I could give two shits if they liked me or not. I would have never, ever gotten into this place where I feel this way. Like I don't know if I'm explaining how deep this is for me, but it's deep. And it happened. I know it is. Like Ryan knows how deep it is. I would have never discovered this if I wasn't willing to make things awkward and go into the unknown like that.
Yeah. Talk about the ultimate psychedelic, right? You guys listening, you can eat 5 grams of mushrooms, but can you allow an awkward silence in a conversation, or what's been called an awkward silence, which is really just a silence? You're the one that makes it awkward, or I'm the one that makes it awkward if it's me feeling it, right? But at the end of the day, these societal norms that are just that, norms, but they're not actually normal. Like, what is normal? There is no actual meaning for normal that actually makes sense, because whose normal are we talking about? If we're in certain countries or tribes, cannibalism is normal. Does that mean it's normal for us? What's normal for us in Western societies is never doing what we want to do, but doing what we think we should do. We should all over ourselves. And that's what's normal here. And then when we went to Mexico or El Salvador, for instance, as a American, you hear these silly things about how, third world countries, they don't have the technology we have. They don't have this. And deep in your brain, you get this unconscious thing, or at least I did, of like, oh man, like they must not be as happy down there. Dude, you go to somewhere like Mexico and El Salvador, they're having a fucking blast. They have their whole family there. They work for as long as it takes to pay the bills, and then they're fucking having fun. And when I went down there, it was such a culture shock, because I was like, dude, these people have it figured out. They're like looking up at us like, oh, you silly kids, with all your fancy gadgets. The moment you realize that it's really just sitting around with your family and the people that you love, cracking jokes, laughing, and at the end of the day, feeling like you got to really live. You got to be in the sunshine. You got to put your feet in the grass. You got to maybe go to the ocean. You got to have an adventure. How many adults have forgotten what adventure means? They know what travel means. They know what a trip means, but they've forgotten the idea of an adventure. And I can confidently say that in our lives, adventure is what we're on all the time. And it's such a wild feeling. Like, we're going to Italy in May. We have, Rachel's dream trip booked. I am so excited for it. So excited. Do you want to tell people real quick where we're going in Italy?
Yeah, I'm so excited. We're going to be there for my birthday too. So we're starting in Rome, and we got this really lovely place that's literally right next door to the Colosseum. I actually think
with a sauna, because Rachel's the best.
Yeah, I made sure to book one with a sauna the first 5 days because I know Ryan cares about that stuff a lot.
I was like, babe, you do all the planning. I'll give you the credit card. Have fun. Because it's your dream trip. Continue. Sorry.
And so we got tickets to see the Vatican and the Colosseum, obviously, and do all that fun stuff. But then we're going to go to Sorrento, and we're going to stay in Sorrento for the bulk of the trip. So we're going to be in Rome 5 days, Sorrento, I think like 8 days or something. We're there 14 days total. So we're there in Sorrento the rest of the time. We rented this lovely house. I guess this guy, I think he owns a bunch of farms or something. Because apparently at the house we rented, he gives everyone like this amazing care package with limoncello, and it's got a big lawn that overlooks all of Sorrento, and you can see the ocean and all of Sorrento from the top. I'm so excited for us to stay there. But while we're in Sorrento, on my birthday, we booked a day boat trip to Capri. And it's like this whole day tour where they take you with like lots of yummy snacks all around the ocean, all around Capri. And then me and you are going to get to spend 4 hours on Capri as part of the boat trip where we just get to roam around and we come back. And then I also booked another day. We are going to go to a cooking class that is at this beautiful farm overlooking the ocean in all of Sorrento. And we're going to make homemade pasta and tiramisu. And I'm so excited. I'm trying to stop myself from booking anything else because we have like 4 solid things booked and it's 14 days. And I'm like, we probably should chill. But everything in me wants to get another boat ride because we're going to be on the Amalfi Coast pretty much. So I potentially book one more boat day trip to like Positano and different places on the Amalfi Coast. And Ryan will tell you, I'm not like a wine drinker, but these last few weeks I have been drinking wine because I've been getting specifically wine from Italy and then making different things from Italy and pretending I'm in Italy because I fucking can't wait.
It's going to be so fun. I am so excited. And it's been about 5 years since I've taken more than 3 days off at once completely. And for you guys listening, we'll have the podcast going. That's all automated at this point. But, it'll be really nice to go unplugged because, what I found over the last 3 months to bring it all full circle is when you slow down, life gets simpler. And as a result, life gets simpler. You don't have to go that fast. The only thing that was making me go that fast was my own belief system around it. And so now I'm all in. I'm like, how much can I slow down? What happens if I take 2 full weeks off? What's going to happen then? And that is now my excitement. My excitement is at the end of the day, like, oh my God, I can go hop in a guitar. Not let me go find more work to do because I think it's going to get me more forward in life faster. And that is such a beautiful place to be. Rach, I'm curious for you, since we're coming up on the hour mark here, where can people go to book readings with you or potentially become a one-on-one client when you have the space? I know that your roster is almost full right now, but where can people go to be on the lookout for everything you have going on? Because you've been taking a nice break from Instagram. One of the things we didn't get into was how Rachel was like, you know what? Instagram's not in alignment with me and just got off of there and how amazing it's been for her. But as a result of that, where can people go to get, on your email list or to stay updated on everything you got going on?
Yeah, I got off Instagram in September and it's been amazing. I never want to go back ever. Fuck off Instagram. Goodbye. Forever. I have a website being built. I feel like it's pretty much done. So I don't know. Maybe it will be out by the time you put this out this week because she did text me a couple of days ago. The girl has been building it for me. But if that's not in the show notes below, come to my podcast, Astrology Magic Podcast. And then underneath the podcast episodes, I usually have a link to either book a birth chart reading with me or apply for one-on-one coaching. If people want to apply for one-on-one coaching with me, I have a prerequisite that you have to book a birth chart reading with me first because I do really, really, really deep work with people. And my work is truly not for everyone. And one thing I found is some people say they want deep transformation, but not everyone is ready for it. The people who are ready for it, though, buckle up. They get really deep transformation. They become very powerful very quickly. Like one girl I'm working with, we transformed a pattern she had her whole life. This is a pattern that normally would take 10 years for someone to overcome, or maybe even the rest of her life. But she overcame it in 5 months because that's the power of combining astrology with the deep work that we do in this container. So it's not for everyone, but apply if you've been liking the things that I talk about. Yeah. And then I have my YouTube also. It's Astrology Life Magic if you want to watch me on video.
You're adorable on video. And guys, I'll sing Rachel's praises till the cows come home. If I haven't made it blatantly clear yet, Rachel is my Rishi. At the end of the day where I'm feeling either excited or a little bit confused or kind of numb or whatever it is, I'll go right in and talk to her and she'll whip me right up with a huge transformation that I am looking for. And that happens often, having an astrologer in your life is, the best hack that I could ever possibly imagine, because if everything in this podcast episode we talked about is true, which trust me, it is, then there's a lot that we don't know. And you know why the stars are here? You know why astrology and systems like this have operated for thousands upon thousands of years? maybe, just maybe it's not all bullshit, right? Because I see a lot of people be like, oh, astrology. It's like the ego of someone to think that in their 30 to 80 years of life they've lived so far, they have something figured out that's lasted thousands of years, but they haven't figured out it's all bullshit, right? It's so silly. And I find a lot of men specifically will be like, out there with that. Well, I'll repeat the quote I said at the beginning. Millionaires don't do astrology or use astrologers. Billionaires do. The people that you think would never use them are already using them all the time. And the question you got to ask yourself is, what do they know that you don't? And so it's really powerful.
And one thing I'll say is when I said in this episode that I started getting clients who were really in alignment with me, and I realized I worked with a lot of people who were not. All of the people who were in alignment with me are people who are very successful in multiple businesses. I actually think they're millionaires. I don't think any of them are billionaires. Maybe one day I'll have a billionaire. And they get deep results with astrology.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, like what I found is that when you're just starting out, like I was, let's picture me about 10 years ago, I thought what I needed was just more information. I just don't know enough yet. And then really what you realize as you get farther and farther along is, no, I think I know too much and I actually need to get rid of everything I think I know and come back to my own infinite wisdom within. And astrology is one of the best paths there. Cannabis is my path to get there. These mix incredibly well. That's why Rachel and I work together quite often and mix our different powers together. But for any of you guys, I'll link everything in the show notes, her YouTube channel, her podcast, her reading link, and her one-on-one coaching application. And if you guys are interested, absolutely send it. I could not recommend it enough. Baby, I love you so much. Thanks for coming on. Sending you so much love to everyone tuning in. I know you guys always enjoy episodes of Rachel, so I know you're going to enjoy this one. Like I said before, I think I've already said it a million times, but go down to the show notes, give her a follow, if for nothing else, and to stay on her email list, watch her YouTube videos. It will change your life just doing that. And then when that happens, ask yourself, how much more transformation would it be if I could actually speak directly to her once a week in some kind of capacity? So hop on that, in there like swimwear. Love you guys. See you soon. May the source be with you. Peace.